Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the From Adversity to Abundance podcast. I am your host, Jamie Bateman, and I'm thrilled today to have with us Mike Kitko. Mike is the founder of Inner Wealth Global, and he's an executive self-mastery coach, speaker, published author. We'll get into more of that here in a bit. But Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome, man. Thanks for having me. And we got so much more in common. The military history. We're both Baltimoreans, so that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were chatting a little bit before the show, and I said to Mike, I said, I think we could do like 5 or 6 episodes, just the two of us here, because there's so many rabbit holes we could go down. The military, and then the Baltimore piece, and then obviously you're an entrepreneur now, and you deal with entrepreneurs, which is the kind of the listener out there. So, man, I know you're. This is going to be a great one. I can feel it already. So, talk to us, Mike, a little bit about who you are today, who you work with, what you do today, before we jump into your backstory.
Awesome. So I in 2016 I founded Inner Wealth Global. I'm the founder, CEO, I guess you could say, but we touch people, especially entrepreneurs around the world, and really what we're after, Jamie, is to try to help them like wake up every single day and the first thought go through their mind is, oh my God, I can't believe I get to live this life. Like, I've created such an exceptional life with time freedom and financial freedom and the freedom to be themselves and to say yes when they want to say yes and no when they want to say no. And that's what the investor, that's what the entrepreneur is really after, right? We just want like control of our finances and control of our day, and nobody calls the shots for us. That's really what we want. And I get to work with those people. I get to work with established entrepreneurs and people that are kind of fresh on the trail, that know they want that, know there's something more to life than just clocking in and clocking out and saying, and saying yes because somebody else wants them to say yes. I mean, that's really what we want. And I work with those people around the world, and I help them understand what's in them trying to get out, what purpose in them is trying to get out, what impact is going to create wealth and create positive change in the world, plus create prosperity and abundance and wealth for themselves. And also I help them understand, how to get inside of themselves and their mind and their bodies and unlock all that worry and the doubt and the fear, because look, you can have all the time freedom you want and all the financial freedom you want, but if you wake up in cold sweats in the middle of the night, you're not going to enjoy any of it. So without that last one, and I call it spiritual freedom, the other two don't matter. So unless we get in there and clean that shit out, then it's not going to be worth it. So why not have all of it, man?
Absolutely.
And I have masterminds. I have a podcast. I'm pretty proud of the fact that, it's called Inner Wealth Global for a reason. And I kind of pre-positioned that name because my intention is to be able to create impact on all 7 continents. And I got 6 so far. I got six continents that I've touched, nice. But I'm still looking for Antarctica. But yeah, it's just making a difference, just waking up, making a difference. I used to wake up for myself on a daily basis just to fill my bank account. And now it's about waking up and making an impact. And because I make an impact, my bank account, it grows itself.
Yeah, I love it. There's so much there. And, if one thing that comes to mind is, right, currently my wife and I are just each very busy and both together very busy with some family things we're working through, but she doesn't have, she works for someone else and I work for myself. And we were, jokingly saying who's busier kind of thing, not as a competition, but just kind of for fun. And she's like, I got all these deadlines and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I got all kinds of deadlines too. And she's like, yeah, but I have bosses. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right.
You win.
you win.
you win the struggle.
Because I quit my job last year, and I do have people I certainly need, I have clients, I have investors and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, she's absolutely right. I mean, I don't have to work. I mean, so it's wonderful when you can find that kind of freedom where you are in control of your day to day. But at the end of the day, couldn't agree more. It's all about adding value to others and bringing, value to others. It's not about how much money can you accumulate. And so before we jump into your backstory here, what does a typical, just high level, quick overview, what's a typical week look like for you?
I don't have many obligations. I don't have many commitments. I think most of my teaching is wrapped up in, I have a mastermind, and it's full of those entrepreneur types that are looking for that next mindset and that next heart set edge that's gonna propel them into that next level that they're looking to achieve. But I do have employees, so I have staff calls with my employees, and we have business meetings and strategy meetings, and I have a few one-on-one clients, not very many, but for the most part, I might have 2 or 3 meetings a day. I have a lot of time freedom and a lot of flexibility, and I love that, because what happens is, in a typical day, I'll have a client that we have an unscheduled call, or we have an unscheduled message, and they're in a headlock in some way, and they'll text me or they'll message me, and I have that freedom. I have that flexibility to be able to address that. Right. And that's what creates an exceptional, I guess, one-on-one relationship is the ability, not just to meet a scheduled requirement to be on, but to be in lockstep and shoulder to shoulder with people. But my wife and I both, she's I said CEO of our business because my wife is kind of the CEO. She operates as the CEO, right? And I just kind of back off and just teach. But the point is we both work out of our home, and we navigate this life together, and we spend a lot of time together. We do, and we work in the business and we work outside of the business, and we have Fridays together, and we my kids are 18 and 20, and so we'll be empty nesters this year. We've got one away at college, and we got one that's 3 months away from being out of the house. Wow. So we've kind of built this life where life and business merge, and we'll be sitting at lunch together talking business, or we'll be on a staff call talking life. It really is a beautiful entanglement of no obligations, and it's not. I guess the easiest way for me to explain it, I don't coach. I am. It's who I am. It's in the genetics. It's in the DNA. It's not something I do for a living. It's something I do in the grocery store line. So there's no shut off switch for any of this. It's just waking up every day to make an impact wherever I am, no matter what I'm doing and no matter what I have in progress.
Yeah, so we're going to get some free coaching out of you then today. So
that's the goal.
Yeah, but it reminds me of James Clear talks about that in Atomic Habits, but it's not something I do. I don't just have to go for a run. I'm a runner.
I'm a runner. Kind of sure.
So yeah, and we could have a whole episode on how you navigate business with a spouse. My wife and I have had that experience as well, and it has its unique challenges, but that's not what this show is going to be about. So talk to us, Mike. Let's jump into your background. I know you've been through some painful things and some real adversity in your life, and we're not going to stay there for the whole conversation, but if you would jump back to the point where things kind of were off the rails for you and things fell apart, and we're going to kind of focus on that adversity for a bit. So take us there if you would.
Awesome. So, you and I had the Baltimore connection, or the Maryland connection. So I born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, but I joined the Marine Corps in 1992, a couple of years after I graduated high school. And I'm a U.S. Marine veteran. So between 92 and 97, I was in the United States Marine Corps, and I got out. I was right between the two Gulf Wars. And when I got out in 97, quickly found a job. It was a great job market. So that's one of the reasons I exited the United States Marine Corps. And I met my wife in 1999 in abnormal psychology, and together, really, when we got together, it was really just about making money, just material wealth, material accumulation. It was like really a heavy focus on how rich of a quality of life could we live. And we moved from Maryland to Portland, Oregon, as part of a corporate move as a corporation I worked with. And I quickly ascended the ranks. And, I was a really, really good Marine and a Marine leader, and I exited at E5. But either way, point being is I was a good leader, and it was noticed and it was recognized in all of my corporate careers, or my corporate companies. And I quickly rose the ladder of success, and I got recruited by another company to come and run a $65 million manufacturing plant. And then I got recruited, to St. Louis from Portland, Oregon. I got recruited to St. Louis to come and run a $350 million plant. And so the entire time, I didn't feel like I was very talented. I didn't feel like I was very valuable. And in fact, I wrote a book called The Imposter in Charge. It was kind of like my treatise to say, here's who I really am, and here's all the garbage that I dealt with. So anyway, I always felt like an imposter and a fraud because I didn't love any of my corporate time. I always thought that I was just like tricking them, and like as soon as they found out that I wasn't that good, that I was all going to fall apart, and it did. I became 300 pounds and suicidal and drinking at toxic levels, and in March of 2016, for the second time in about 20 months, I got terminated from a position. And this is after a lot of success that I had. So 20 months, like really quickly, and bang, bang. And I knew I had to do something different. And what I tried to do different is get back into a corporate role. And I say that tongue in cheek, is I was going to do it differently this time. Right.
Sure. Let me just jump in for real quickly. So I'm just curious, when you say, I understand, I think on some level, we all sometimes suffer from maybe imposter syndrome. And I think that's a tough line to define, as far as, fake it till you make it versus pushing your boundaries and learning as you go, because you do need to push yourself. We all need to push ourselves and do things we're maybe a little bit afraid of. So I guess my question really comes down to, were you kind of presenting someone that you weren't really that you couldn't live up to? Was it more in your head, or was it that you were fooling them?
It was I was fooling them because it was projected confidence, right? It was
Gotcha.
it was completely internal. It was all about what I believed. It was self-perception. It was all about the stories I was telling myself about who I was. There was plenty of evidence, Jamie, that I was talented. I kept getting promoted, and I kept getting, I mean, I got raise after raise, and, brought all over the country to train and run operations. So the evidence was there that I was good, and I was adequate, and I had talent. I just wouldn't allow myself to believe it. Like there was this pain point in my body that and look, if you do any mindset work, you're going to find out that the stories that you learn between 0 and 7, you kind of lock in your subconscious who you really are. Your kind of like self-concept really formulates really early in your life. So when you're in a house where people are telling you that you're not talented, and you're not good enough, and you're raised in that type of environment, then you're going to struggle to believe that you're ever good. And then when somebody says, hey, you're talented, your inner narrative is going to take over and dominate, right? So you're going to reject that, and you're saying, no, I just tricked you too. Well, again, the evidence was there that I was really good and I was talented. I just wouldn't let myself believe it and feel it. So, and it was like, I was just running from that conversation my whole life. And I kept drinking it, or tried to drink it away, and tried to, have sex enough to make it go away. And I tried to watch enough sports to make those stories go away. And I couldn't make it go away. I felt like I was like, everything was going to fall apart at some point. And it did.
Got it.
And it did.
And so the reason you lost your job, it sounds like twice, was almost self-sabotage in a sense.
Well, when you're holding the story that your life's going to fall apart, then you make it happen, right? Your stories come true. I mean, whatever you believe about yourself, you make it true. And this is the flip side of the imposter syndrome, is I get to decide who I am. You don't get to decide who I am. I get to decide who I am, and I tell you who I am. I don't wait for you to tell me who I am. I get to tell you. I can decide who I want to be anytime. Like I know you do some mortgage work and some real estate investing work. Look, the one guy, I was at a speaking engagement, and the guy says, how did you like become a coach? I said, I started telling people I was a coach. And he's like,
absolutely.
Is that it? I said, yeah, that's pretty much it. I just started telling people that I was a coach, and then somebody said, hey, I was looking for a coach. Would you want to sit down? I was like, yes. And then my client portfolio built. It literally is that simple. There's no rules to this thing. You get to decide who you want to be. I don't need there's no license for coaching. There's no, or speaking or writing a book or podcasting. There's no licenses for any of this stuff. You just decide to be it, and then the world meets you there. But if you decide that you're a fraud and that you're an imposter, then you are. The world sees you there, and it will eventually fall apart, right? It will catch up to you.
Absolutely. No, there are plenty of people with lots of, triple digits after double or triple digits, after their name, and different titles and things that just frankly suck.
Cold sweat.
Bluntly.
Look, I've worked probably my most financially valuable client, net worth wise. He was a 9-figure guy, easy. And he was always, I need more income. And he was like money was the root of all of his pain. So money doesn't solve a poverty mindset and a poverty heart set, right? Success isn't going to take away the feeling that you have that you're a failure or you're a fraud.
But also the people with maybe a PhD or an MD in their title doesn't necessarily mean that they're
No.
actually good at their role. But talk to us more about 2016. Let's dive in. What things sounds like you were drinking, you were overweight, you lost your job, and
I did.
what that sounds like things really fell apart. So let's drill down on that a little bit.
Yeah, March 18th, 2016, I came home from work for the second time and in 20 months and told my wife I lost a job. And she went into complete panic because that's the only thing we ever had. We had money and we had materials, and we tried to show it. We were those people on Facebook that showed the world that everything was put together, but inside, there was physical, mental, and emotional abuse inside my house. My kids were raised in a completely toxic environment, seeing me drink way too much and seeing my wife pop pills and be in paralysis and pharmaceutical addiction for weeks and weeks at a time. And they saw, they saw physical violence, and they saw just shit that they should have never been exposed to, right? From any I guess for any good parenting. but the point is when I knew that second time that, I needed to do something different. And I started working with a mentor, and it was the first time that I really ever expressed my truth and who I really was and what I really felt and what was going on inside of my mind and my body. And we started working on clearing that stuff out. And, this is when I decided to start writing The Imposter in Charge, where the first chapter is really just all, and it came out in 2018. So it's not like I'm on a promotional tour for this thing,
Right.
but I kind of like opened up my soul and said, look, here's who I've really been in this lifetime. And here's what's really been going on. The ruse is over. And I'm kind of going to let all the skeletons out of the closet. But I started putting myself back together and my stories, and I started unraveling, I guess stories about, religious stuff that I had been taught that didn't fit for me, and economic stuff that didn't fit for me, and success stuff, the basis of success. I mean, my father taught me that making money was hard. And he taught me I had to work really, really hard, and the man was going to rob from you, and the rich people are greedy. And, marriage is hard. My dad loved me a lot, but he told me a lot. He taught me a lot of really, really painful stuff that wasn't true. It was true for him. And because it was true for him, he made it true, but they weren't true, right? These are beliefs that he adopted, that he started to teach me because he thought he was doing me a service. And all I did was take these beliefs that he taught me, and I put them in play and put them in action. So the point is I got to clear out a lot of this mess and a lot of these old, antiquated, false, painful beliefs that I had, been carrying around since I was like, a little kid. But anyway, the point being is when I started making these shifts and started making these changes and started taking care of my body and eating better and exercising and running and reading healthy books and journaling and meditating and listening to podcasts, my wife was like, I don't like this. I don't like this guy. Like, I don't like this person. Yeah, this isn't who I married. Like, go get a job. And I interviewed for a couple jobs, and I came up runner up about 4 or 5 times. And she's like, you need to find a job. Stop journaling. Stop reading your books. Stop exercising. Go find a job. I need security. We need benefits. And she fought and attacked so much, I filed for divorce. And when I came home and I told her, because we had threatened, we had been together for 16, 17 years at the time. And when I came home and told her that I filed for divorce, she laughed at me because she was still high. And then the very next morning, when the buzz wore off, she came downstairs crying, and she said, how do we put this thing back together? I don't want this. And we went to NA that night, and we both started cleaning up, man, and we started rebuilding everything from the inside out.
And there's, so again, we could literally, there's I'll say 10 episodes actually in this one we could hold. But for someone out there who might be kind of at rock bottom or close to rock bottom, or just going through some very difficult times, you said you found a mentor. And it's inevitable we're going to gloss over a lot of the pain and a lot of the work you did put into to kind of, dig deep and work on yourself. But how does someone go about, how did you find your mentor?
Yeah, he was actually a friend of mine, believe it or not. And when we were, he actually sat next to me in graduate school, and he had made a life change, and he had made a pivot, and he lived in Portland, Oregon, and I had already moved to St. Louis. But I was watching him on social media, and he was losing weight, and he was putting all these fancy positive, messages on Facebook. And I'm like, who the frick do you think you are? Like, I know who you really are. This isn't who you are. And what happened, he started like getting out of the darkness, and he started unwinding and unraveling all the darkness that he had been running from. And I saw it. So when everything like started falling, when everything did fall apart for me, he was one of the only people that kind of stayed connected to me. And we had a conversation. He's like, what if I can help? And I didn't even know what coaching was at the time, Jamie. And I said, what does that mean? What does that look like? Like, how can you help? And he started telling me about coaching. And my thought was, I got to pay you to be my friend. And that's not what it was at all. It wasn't what it was at all, because I had never really exposed my soul and who I really was to him. I just kept a lot of secrets, right?
Sure. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And so, okay, so you file for divorce. Your wife. I mean, I'm guessing you were obviously serious about getting a
Yeah.
divorce. You're
No, it
not
was
gonna go.
done. I
Yeah.
filed. I didn't threaten. I filed. And
Sure.
in fact, when she said we were going to put things back together, when we were going to work to put things back together, the money stayed with the lawyer, and the paperwork stayed on the lawyer's desk. I'm like, look, I'm not effing around. Like, if we start backsliding, I'm done. And this is like, here's the number one. There's a difference between living a self-centered life and being selfish. Okay. And this is one of the biggest lessons I've ever had to learn, that I've ever gotten the experience to learn. I was taught that wanting anything for yourself or doing anything for yourself was selfish. Putting yourself first, taking care of yourself, like wanting things, needing things, desiring things, wanting anything on your own terms. I was taught that stuff was selfish, and it's not. Those things are self-centered, and living a self-centered life is a very healthy place to live, because you are one of one. You are here to live the greatest life possible that you could possibly create, with people around you that want for you what you want for yourself. And all they ask in return is for you to do the same for them. Like, you inspire each other to live the most authentic, powerful, prosperous, healthy, loving life possible. And their job is not to get in your way, and your job is not to get in their way, but 1 + 1 = 3, and we're better together.
Yeah, I love it. So yeah,
that's a self-centered life, not a selfish life. What I had done is thought, if I wanted to start a business and my wife wanted me to get a job, I was being selfish by starting a business. No, I'm here to live a life for me, and the right people jump on the wagon, and the right people jump off. and if someone is that close to you and fights who you are, then they're not working for you. They're working against you. They're not working with you. They're not your ally. They're an adversary, right? Fits right into the title of your podcast.
Absolutely.
Right?
So, and one thing that comes to mind, this has been a theme in the podcast over these episodes we've done, is that a lot of the guests we have who've been through a transformation, or it certainly overcome some real adversity in their life, what ends up happening is they let go of the focus isn't on this maybe worldly, like big picture thing, and they end up focusing more internally and in their own network. And in a sense, what you just said is taking that to an extreme, meaning, so I'll give you an example, make it a little more clear. In 2015, I had a mindset shift myself, maybe not as dramatic, not as rock bottom, but it was, I was in a Groundhog Day, woe is me. I go to work, I sit in a commute all day, and then I go, do the family thing, go home, blah, blah, blah. But instead of watching the cable news and focusing on things that I couldn't control, I ended up saying, no, what are my strengths? Who do I know that, what are the positive people in my life? And in a sense, the same thing you're talking about, but you're saying to even more of an extreme, where it's actually really focused on yourself. So I haven't articulated it well, but basically, if you let go of these things that you can't control, and you end up focusing really on yourself and what you can control, you can end up being a positive influence on those people around you. And it ends up not being selfish, because you're actually giving so much to others.
True,
Um,
true story. My wife, when I started working out, I've got a gym in the basement, and I would
mhm,
come down and I would clink weights all the time, and every
mhm,
day, sometimes a couple times a day. And this is when I didn't have a job, I didn't have income, I didn't know what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I had no idea.
sure.
I was in a place of this complete neutrality. I just had no idea what I was doing. Right. I
Mhm,
knew a pivot was in process. I just didn't
mhm,
know what it was going to look like. And I would work out, and I would fill my time with health producing and physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual health producing activities, right? For the first time in
sure.
my life, I stopped doing things that would hurt me, and I started doing things that would actually grow and evolve me. And my wife didn't like it. And
Mm,
she would like, when I was on the treadmill and I was in my gym, and she would come down and start arguing with me about taking time away from the family. And I mean, it was completely, all it was she didn't feel like she could do that. Like, for whatever
mm.
reason, she didn't feel like she had permission or authority or whatever to do
To
that,
do the exercising
to do
herself?
the
Is that
same
what
thing
you?
I was doing.
Yeah, right. Got it.
So when she had argued with me about things like that before, and when I gave in, things
Mhm,
just stayed the same. And this time something was different, because no matter what, her words couldn't hurt me.
hmm,
And for the first time, I had resolve in me that I was
mm,
going to live the life that I want to live, whether you like give me permission or
mhm.
not. I'm not seeking your permission. It sounds assholish, but listen to me.
Yeah,
Listen to
yeah,
this. Like, this is called boundaries. And to a person who
sure.
doesn't have boundaries, like, setting boundaries sounds and feels selfish. All right. But
Mhm,
I was persistent in that I am not giving up these healthy activities for me, whether, no matter how hard you fight or how hard you don't. And that's when I filed for divorce. Anyway, a couple
mhm,
months later, she started getting on the treadmill,
mm.
and she started clanking weights, and she started signing up for fitness classes. And then a couple months later, our daughters started doing the same thing.
That's awesome.
So what I've learned is that I've got to figure out what's best for me,
Mhm,
and I need to be the leader, because they're watching. And
yeah,
if I don't do the right things, if I don't do the health promoting activities, they're not going to either.
yeah.
I'm here to lead them, not to be their little bitch, right? So,
Well,
so I,
right.
it's
Yeah,
my responsibility to figure out who I want to be, and then help
mhm.
them become who they want to be.
Sure. And another key point is that the best way to lead is by example, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
I have two teenagers as well, and they don't, they don't want to hear what I have to say. Let's be honest.
And Jamie, what I've learned, like I said, 18 and 20, is they don't listen. They're too busy watching. They
That's really good.
they don't listen.
Yeah.
Teenagers do not listen, but they're watching. Be
That's,
who you're telling them to be, because if
yeah.
you're not, they're going to take your clues. They're not doing what you say, they're doing what you do. my
Yeah.
my girls are both fitness crazy now, and it all
That's awesome.
started by me diving in that. Not even my older daughter, she
Mhm.
she came down and she said, "Dad, you're making too many changes. Like, can you slow it down?" I'm like, "Baby, I got years to make up. Like,
Wow.
like I got some progress. I got some ground to make up." And
Yeah.
she's a scholarship cheerleader in university now, right? And she went down and competed at nationals. She's been cheering since she was 6. But man, when she started really pursuing her dream, her passion level went sky high. And all of
That's so
that
cool.
came from seeing that she could, like, do what she wanted without
Mhm.
anybody else's permission.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly why we have this show, is to show the listener, show people out there that it can be done, and show through stories like yours, Mike, that the listener can make changes.
Heck
It's
yeah.
very, it's very possible. So, walk us through kind of how you started to touch on how things were rebounding. You've made some incredible changes at this point, and then it's starting to be contagious. Your wife
Yeah.
starts
No
making
doubt.
changes. How did your relationship and then the business, how did things progress at that point?
Yeah, I mean, in early 2017, so about a year later, somewhere around March or April of 2017, I got my first. I was sitting down to a cup of coffee with another Marine vet, and we were just talking life and talking shop. And I just asked this magical question, man. And for all you coaches or wannabe coaches out there, whatever aspiring coaches, I just said, "Hey, what kind of problems are showing up in your life, like in your life or business? What's got you in a headlock?" And he
Mm-hmm.
says, "Man, I got these." It was a traditional real estate agent. And he says,
Mm-hmm.
"I've got these big goals, and I'm struggling to get my team motivated." And I just said, "What if I can help with that?" And he said, well, what would that look like? I said, well, what
Mhm.
if I do? Well, I never thought about this before ever. I was looking for one-on-one clients. All right. That's all I was
Sure.
looking for, one-on-one clients. So I was like
Mhm.
at this table to try to see if this guy wanted to
This
become
guy.
a one-on-one client.
Sure.
But I said, what if I could help you with that? And he said, what would that look like? I said, let me do a workshop. Let's come in. Let me come in and spend some time with your team. And we started talking money, and I gave him a really low offer, right, just to get me in. And before I left that table, I had 2 workshops. I was going to do one on a Tuesday and one on a Thursday. And out of those 2 workshops, I signed 2 private clients. So the point being is, all I did was ask, what is your problem and how can I help?
Mhm.
Like, don't worry about
Yeah.
what I want. How can I help you? What's got you in a headlock? And are you open to help with that? And it's a magical set of questions that'll unlock opportunities that you could have never imagined. And that's how I made the transition from corporate executive to coach, simply asking that question, right?
Mm.
Everybody in this world, 8 billion people, are walking around with problems that they will pay to have solved. And I was sitting down with early on in a client relationship with a guy, and he was talking about getting money, getting his bank
Mhm.
account going, and getting
Mhm.
his engine, his business engine running.
Mhm.
And just as a I guess I don't know, a story, I guess. I just said, hey, that gal over there, we're sitting in a coffee shop. I said, that gal over there has a problem. Do you know what her problem is? He said, I don't care about her problem. I said, and that's why you're broke.
Wow.
That right there. Not that
Sure.
not that you don't know her problem, is that you don't
You
care
don't
what her
care.
problem is.
Sure.
So the way we become successful entrepreneurs, business is very
Sure.
simple, right? I know this is an
Yeah.
entrepreneurial podcast.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
let's get down to the basics of business. All right. This entrepreneurial thing is very, very simple. People have problems, and entrepreneurs are problem solvers. when
Love it.
when you identify a problem that you can solve at a world-class level, and you look for people who have that problem that they will pay to have solved, you start to build your entrepreneurial business. And this
That's
is how
awesome.
my business, first full year in business, I hit double 6 figures from nothing,
Mm.
right? The first, by 2017, I think I did $36,000. That wasn't a full year in business.
Sure. Sure.
But 2018, I almost hit double digits or double 6 figures. So just by no website, no freaking marketing, I wasn't no paid advertising,
Mhm.
simply having conversations and asking people what's got you in a headlock and what
Mm.
problem, can I help you solve?
So you didn't have kind of a strategic plan, a business plan. You just kind of started asking these questions and listening and trying to solve
Uh,
problems.
early on in my coaching career, I wasn't focused on entrepreneurs, and I wasn't focused
Mhm.
on, and now I work with a lot of real estate investors, and you and I were
Mhm.
talking about that. But who
Yeah.
I was focused on were the problem that I had, right? The imposter syndrome. And that's why I wrote that book. It was to help
Sure.
our executives, right? Corporate
Sure.
executives, like with the imposter syndrome.
Sure.
And this was all the marketing I did. Executive leaders hire me to help them feel as powerful inside as they appear on the outside.
Mm.
And when somebody'd say, Mike, what do you do for a living? I wouldn't say coach. I wouldn't say speaker. I wouldn't
Mhm.
say all this fancy stuff,
Mhm.
right? Like everybody else. I'd say executive leaders help me, or hire me to help them feel as powerful inside as they appear on the outside. Because that's what I
Mm.
was missing. I knew how to solve that problem because
Sure.
I was already in a process of transcending it. So, like people, when they know that we have transcended a problem, they will
Yeah.
hire us to help them transcend that
Yeah.
problem, right?
Proof is in the pudding, right? It's
Absolutely.
pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
So now, and then what made you, I guess I'll say, how much work was it writing a book, and how was that process?
It was a year long.
Okay.
And I had stopped and started that book 4 times, 5 times. And I hired a coach. I have a book
Sure.
coach. She's also my publisher. So
Okay.
she became my publisher after I hired, or I finished the book. But she just took me through a
Mhm.
step-by-step process of writing the book. And
Got it.
she's amazing. If anybody wants to connect, just reach out. And her name is Nancy Erickson. She lives in this local St. Louis area. Shout out, Nancy. But anyway, the point is, her name's the book professor, but she just walks you through a process for your first book, especially, and gives you a framework that I mean, it's a slam dunk. You're going to finish this thing if you just stay on task and on target.
Sure. So now, before we jump into some of these questions I have for you. How did your marriage resolve itself? Talk to us a little bit about that, because we didn't really close the loop on that one.
Yeah. So look, I'm gonna show you. All right. And if anybody's
Yeah.
watching the
Yeah.
video of
Yeah.
this, okay, I'm
Mhm.
gonna show you the difference between love and love. All right.
Okay.
You're right now with my right hand, I've got a closed fist. Okay.
Yep.
And we think that's love. And what that really is you are obligated to me. You need to stay with me. We're together forever. You can't get away. I can't live without you. If you leave, I won't be okay. And that's called really codependency, is what that is. It's not love. Okay.
Sure.
It's you're here to make me feel comfortable, and it's your job to make me happy. And I'm not happy, and I'm not willing to feel uncomfortable without you. So you need to stay. Right.
Hmm.
And then you try to get all of your mental and emotional needs met and sexual needs met through this person. That's a lot of burden to put on somebody. And then there's this other form of love. And I'm making I've got my palm up in my left hand, right? Fingers open and palm up. And it says, I love you so much that I only want for you what you want for you, even if that doesn't include me.
Wow.
And it means you don't need to stay. You're not obligated. I don't need you, but I want you desperately, and I want you dearly. But if you ever decide that you don't want me, I want that for you. And that's okay, because I want the best for you. And what, Jamie, what I got to realize, love, the acronym love that serves most powerfully, is let others voluntarily evolve. So this codependent relationship, people try to fight to get out of it. This relationship with the palm up, you can leave if you want. Who the hell would ever leave that? It's safe. It's loving. It's inspirational. My job is to ask my wife all the time, what do you want? How can I help you get that? Like, I don't care what it is. What do you want? And then she does the same for me. So in a relationship, in a palm up relationship based on love, letting others voluntarily evolve, 1 + 1 = 3. We're better together. We're more powerful together. This is our safe spot. There's no conflict. There's no drama. There's no attacks, right? That shit's off limits. We keep that stuff stays outside of these 4 walls, because inside of these 4 walls, there's safety, security, love, protection, freedom, encouragement, inspiration. And we leave all that drama outside of these walls, if there's even any. And love is inside these 4 walls. It's how can I help you be even more of who you are, and how can I help you get more of what you want to get in this world?
That's so powerful. You mentioned before some of the things that have maybe been instilled in you at a young age, as far as your views on money, religion, and I guess marriage as well. So would you say that marriage and making money do not take hard work? Is that what you're saying?
When you're married to the right person, marriage isn't hard. When you're, I was on a coaching call the other day, and I was talking to a guy who's afraid of his wife spending him into bankruptcy. And he's like, how would you manage your wife's spending if you're afraid that she'll overspend? I said, I wouldn't be married to that person. Like, if I have to protect myself from you, then is that really Jamie, I'm just telling, these are just my beliefs, right? Yeah. Like, if I have to protect myself from my spouse, am I really married to the right person? If I have to protect my finances from my spouse, am I really married to the right person? If my spouse doesn't want for me what I want for myself, am I really married to the right person? Like, we have accepted these things as it's just how marriage is. You have to fight to stay financially viable, and you have to protect yourself, and you have to worry about attacks. And if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. That's all bullshit. If mama ain't happy, mama ain't happy. That's
now,
it.
How about the hard work piece when it comes to making money? Because I know you made good money as a corporate executive.
I did.
So
even more now. So in corporate,
what's the approach there?
Yeah, in corporate, there was this thing when I was standing up in front of my team and I was giving a presentation, and I was talking about the future and talking about the vision and talking about what we were capable of and what we were achieving, and or what was possible. Like, their eyes were locked on me, and I had their attention, and they always walked out like more motivated and inspired than when they walked in.
Mhm.
And people would say, Mike, you're a good speaker. And I
Mhm.
would say, no, I'm not,
Mhm.
because I felt like an imposter.
Mhm.
There's a book, Jamie, there's a book called The Big Leap, Bigleap, The Big Leap, and it's by a fellow
Mhm.
named Gay Hendricks. And he talks about getting in your zone of genius. So there's a couple zones, and one of them's a zone of excellence, or like the zone of competence, but the highest
Mhm.
level is your zone of genius. And most people are living in their zone of excellence. It's what they don't enjoy, probably makes a good income. You don't necessarily enjoy, you don't wake up inspired to do this thing, but you do it because you get good results. It makes good income, and your quality of life is okay. But there's this zone called the zone of genius, where what you do is easy and
Mhm.
effortless, and you don't lose,
Mhm.
like, you don't lack motivation, and you don't
Mhm.
lose inspiration, and you'll do it without getting paid,
Mhm.
and you'll get paid a lot of money for doing this
Mhm.
thing. We all
Well,
we all have one, but most people haven't found it, and they're not even looking for it.
I need to check that out. I think I've heard of that book. But what makes me think of is, people have the question of kind of maybe younger people, but even someone going through a midlife crisis as well. Um, what should I do with my life? Should I follow my passion? Should I not follow my passion? And personally, I think, and again, I haven't read the book, but you should try to find where, if you have a Venn diagram where your passion
There
kind
you
of
go.
overlaps problem solving, which is what you're talking about, because it's not selfish. It's not just, oh, I liked, being an artist and that's what makes me happy. That's cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
But are you solving problems? Are you actually adding value? Maybe you are. I'm not saying you
Hmm.
can't do it that way,
Sure.
but I think, both either extreme is not good. Where you're following your passion, but you're not listening to others and not trying to solve their problems. You're not going to get paid much for that. It's not
Right.
going to be successful, really. And then the other extreme, which I think is maybe kind of what you were doing as a corporate executive, I could be wrong, but um, chasing the dollar, chasing the money, you know, but not really following your passion at all. So, I mean, I can tell you wake up every day and you love what you do. So
I
it's,
do. Well, in corporate, I did 1,000 things every day, right? Or in a week. And
mhm,
some of those were, P&L related and HR related and
sure.
recruiting related. And I interviewed people. And I did all of that. I managed process engineers and process lines and supply chains. Oh, man, I hated that stuff. But
Yeah.
I two things. I'd say two things that I loved. I was getting ready to say one, but there's two things that I loved, and that's developing people and developing teams. I could do that at a world-class level in my sleep. But there was this thing. There was this. I managed that $65 million plant, and I walked in,
Hmm.
and when I took over that plant, there were 6 functional leaders, and I immediately recognized that 3 of them were in way over their heads. They weren't talented enough to really be successful in that role. I let those 3 go. I hired two to replace them. So I eliminated a position. And out of those 5 functional leaders, we created the best functional team that, I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
That's
And
awesome.
that we in 3 years we completely overhauled that
Mm,
manufacturing plant. It was, the COO said it's a dinosaur, and they were
mhm.
getting ready to sell it, and we made it the highest working capital turn engine in the
That's
entire fleet.
fantastic.
And what I did is,
Hmm.
after we gained that success, I said, I got to
Yeah.
get out of here because I'm not that talented. They're doing all the work. And I didn't understand what my genius was. I didn't,
Mm,
because it was so easy, I didn't think there was any value in it. When something's easy, we don't think it's valuable because only hard stuff is valuable.
mm,
We've
mhm,
bought into this thing that
mhm,
if it's not hard, it's not
mhm,
worth anything. Then the thing that's easy for you is your moneymaker.
mhm.
Do that, and people will throw money at you.
That's
It's not
great.
hard for me to speak. It's not hard for me to develop people. It's not hard for me to develop teams. And this is why
Mhm,
I get paid a lot of money to do them, and I enjoy
mhm.
it in the process. I just didn't know it was a gift.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So much I could dive into, but I've got some rapid fire questions. Then we'll wrap up here, Mike. This has been fantastic. What's one thing that people misunderstand about you?
Nah, I'm not selfish. I am the most loving, giving, caring, compassionate, empathetic human being walking this planet. I'm just not going to sacrifice myself for anyone.
That's Man, that's got to be the the mic drop quote for the episode right there. What's
Compassion and empathy are understanding other people's problems. It's not sharing in them.
hmm,
It's not watering yourself down for somebody
hmm,
else's benefit.
sure,
It's not sacrificing your well-being because somebody else has a problem. It's caring about it and helping where you can, but it's allowing them to grow and evolve as a human being as well.
it's great. We've already talked a little bit about this, but what's one of your biggest failures in life, or regrets, or however you want to frame it? It's something you'd like a do-over for.
Oh my gosh. That's a hard one when you look at everything as an opportunity that's gotten you here. Yeah, here you go. I'm going to get emotional. I wrote, I haven't thought about this in a while. I wrote a little poem in my book, and it talks about how I would play with my girls and we would be on the floor and we'd be rolling around. I'm going to get emotional. And we'd be playing and we'd dance and they'd sing and we'd be happy and laugh together. And all of a sudden, after a couple too many beers, I'd turn into a monster and start throwing shit at them and get angry. And that love would turn to anger for no reason. And I hurt my angels. I mean, those girls were precious, and it was just the alcohol that did that. And I was not that guy, but I had no control over that shit at that time.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Little lighter. What if you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
Winston Churchill.
Okay.
When the world's collapsing around you and everything looks like failure is imminent, how do you keep it together? How do you, when the entire world feels like it's against you and nobody's showing up for you, how do you resolve? How do you hold this element of resolve that everything's going to be okay? That's what I would ask them.
If you were given $10 million tomorrow, just somebody wrote a check, no strings attached, what would you do with it? Keeping you on your toes, aren't I?
Yeah, this one's a good one. I've never heard this one before. I would invest in my reach in this business because my business does a lot of good in this world. And it helps a lot of people overcome a lot of what I like to call survival mode, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial survival mode. This business does a lot of good. We have a large reach and it's increasing. And I would take that $10 million and I would double down.
Awesome. I mean, you clearly believe in what you do.
I do.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Speaking of your business, what's just one challenge? There's always a challenge. What's an internal challenge in your business that you're grappling with right now?
Yeah, there's just this feeling that nobody's listening.
Okay.
We can scream loud, right? We're in a world in social media and where there's a cluttered social media and people are worn out on email marketing and you got paid advertising and all the platforms are shifting algorithms. There's just, the world is cluttered with influencers and being heard is and screaming louder doesn't always get you heard. And really for us, it's not about the platforms. It's not about social media. We do okay there, but it's really about getting in front of audiences because when we get in front of audience, people listen. But man, what a cluttered world of influencers we live in. Yeah, and some who make a massive difference for others and some who make a massive difference for themselves.
That's a great way to put it. Now I know you had kind of a taste of financial abundance prior to 2016, and then now you're making good money as well. How has financial abundance made your life better?
Margin. Margin. The word I'll come back to. I love that word, Jamie. That margin. I don't have to say yes when I want to say no. I don't have to say no when I want to say yes. I get to make my own choices, and I've got room to breathe, and I've got time to breathe, and I've got resources for self-care, and I can buy better quality food, and it doesn't come down to, payroll or mortgage. I mean, there's the lights are going to stay on. The mortgage is going to get paid. If somebody can help me increase the reach and impact of this business, I can say yes. Money can't make you happy, but it'll definitely give you a higher quality of life that allows you to explore avenues to create more happiness in your life.
Sure. Gives you options. That's fantastic. We've already hit on how you like to serve others. That's basically been the whole show, quite honestly. What's one question that you wish I'd asked that I haven't asked?
Oh man, I wish you would have given me these before.
It's all good. If there's anything you want to hit on as far as your next book that's coming out or your podcast, let's talk about any of that stuff.
I'm still thinking about the last question. I haven't left that one yet. Give me 1 second and let me think through that. How about this? What's the biggest challenge that you see with people struggling to get out of survival mode? Go ahead and ask me.
What's the biggest challenge that you see with people struggling to get out of survival mode?
They don't believe in themselves enough. They don't believe in themselves enough. Every challenge, every obstacle, every problem that I've not been able to overcome, it's just because I didn't believe in myself enough. And that's the number one headlock that people can get themselves in. And this is why we sacrifice ourselves. And this is why we stay in toxic relationships. And this is why we stay in toxic careers that we hate. This is why we set alarm clocks when we don't want to, is because we don't believe in ourselves enough. You can have anything you want in this world. You can do anything you want in this world. You can be anything you want in this world. The only problem is you don't believe in yourself enough.
Love it. It's fantastic. All right. So the final question, where can our listeners find you online?
Thanks for asking that question. Our website is www.innerwealthglobal.com. We've got some resources on there, but I am on all the socials, right? Facebook, connect with my personal Facebook page. There's a few Mike Kitkos, but you'll be able to point me out. I'm the bald guy. We do some TikTok work on TikTok. We're building a little bit of a TikTok following, but yeah, innerwealthglobal.com, the socials. I offer every once in a while, I offer some free workshops, virtual workshops. The key offering that we have is I have a mastermind full of driven entrepreneurs that are looking for time and financial and the freedom from worry, fear, and doubt. To me, that's the most critical to all of this.
Fantastic. So I already said that I asked my final question, so I'll have to frame this as a statement. What describe to us your perfect avatar? I'm sure it's not, just a super specific. I know you work with lots of different types of people across all walks of life, but who is your ideal client, if you will?
Yeah, look, 85% of the people that I work with, not by design or real estate investors, just because they value freedom. That's why somebody gets in the real estate investment space, because they value freedom. They want freedom and they want to live life on their own terms. My avatar is somewhere between 35 and 55 years old. They're driven by freedom. They've lived life according to everybody else's design and how they were supposed to live, and they're not full, man. They're empty, and they know they're missing something, and they don't know what they're missing, and they know that as soon as they have it, they'll be able to live life on their terms.
I love it. It's fantastic, Mike. I did ask another question, so I already I got to cut myself off here before I do it again. But Mike Kitko, thank you so much for joining us, man. This has been fantastic.
Jamie, thanks for having me, and I really appreciate it. You're doing great work, and it doesn't hurt that you're a Baltimorean, man. I love it.
Absolutely. And your podcast name, throw that out there for the listener.
Yeah. Thank you. The podcast, the name is Lead, Love, Profit, Play, and it's available on all the major platforms. Pretty proud of it. It's reached 6 continents, and that's what I'm saying. I'm on 6 continents. We've hit 42 countries and about 740 cities around the world. I love making an impact any way possible.
Looks like you have 82 episodes currently out, and so you got a little bit of a jump on me. So
we'll get there. We'll get there together,
absolutely.
man.
Fantastic, Mike. This has been really, really good. I think this is one I may listen to myself a few times. It's been very good. So thanks again.
Well, thank you.
And to our listener out there, thank you so much for spending your most valuable resource with us, and that is your time. We do appreciate you. We ask that you do like, subscribe, but most importantly, share the show with a friend. Thanks, everyone. Take care.